friends, Catherine here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that you tuned in again today. Today we are going to be discussing another story taken from my recently published memoir, Grace for Someone Like Me. It's available on Amazon or my website, km-ministries.com. A story of trauma, survival, and the God who rescues. So I've been having so much fun reading through and talking about some of these stories with you guys. Today, I wanted to share with you a story. I'm going to call it my abortion story. And so I was a teenager, and I remember thinking, at least I made it to 18. At least I'm 18 years old, Mom. I said that exact line to my mother the first time I told her that I was pregnant. And, I had been in an abusive relationship for several years at this point. I'm still a drug addict and wandering around on the streets. I didn't really have a home. I was going to and fro with the boyfriend and in and out of relationship with him and all the crazy cycle, all the chaos. And so here I am finding myself pregnant. And I remember sitting and we often hung out. I had taken my pregnancy test. And I remember looking at those pink lines thinking, what in the world am I going to do? And part of me was extremely excited because my sister had just found out she was pregnant, my little sister, and she was happy and the family was happy for her and things were going good. So part of me was a little bit relieved. It's like, okay, at least I know my mom's not going to be mad at me and I'm going to have a baby. Oh my God, part of me was excited, but then there was the other side of me that was like scared to death. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? And so I remember walking out to the parking lot where the boyfriend was at the time. And I began telling him that I was pregnant. And the look on his face, I could tell that he did not want this to happen. He did not want this to be true. And so I remember I just quickly grabbed him and gave him a hug and pretended like he was smiling and happy for me too. And I'll never forget that, just that the blankness of his eyes and that part of my heart that was like determined to try to make the best out of it no matter what the cost. And I think because of that sentence, no matter what the cost, I went through a lot of pain. And so I just wanted to pause there and encourage you, because challenge you that you might be thinking those same words. I'm going to make this work no matter what I have to go through. And I just want to say, please do not do that. Do not sacrifice yourself for the sake of what you believe is normal or healthy. For me, growing up my whole life with all this turmoil and constant changing and never having a father that actually loved me, and people coming and going, men coming and going, and men that were supposed to protect me, hurting me. And so my view of a father was so warped and so wrong at this point in my life. And also that desperation for my own child to have a healthy father, to have a present father. And so my broken mind at that time and my mindset was, no matter what, I'm going to make this work. And because of that, I kept running back to a man that didn't want us, who was abusive, who was mean to us, who just caused hell in my life. And every time I would make the decision to finally say no, and I don't want this anymore, it seemed like that's when the tables would flip, and then I couldn't get away from him. I couldn't get away from that. He would just chase me down and run after me. I remember one time running away, literally running away, like down the street in the middle of our small town to get away from this person that I was trying to just end it with. And he was like, 50 to 100 feet behind me, running after me for what felt like 2 miles down public streets in the middle of our little tiny town. And nobody stopped. Nobody rolled out their window to see if I needed help. And it was obvious. I was crying. I was running. But so I remember finally turning into this parking lot, a grocery store parking lot, and I was just exhausted. And I finally just started walking, and this car pulls up, and it's this old lady. And I'll never forget, sometimes I still think today that it was an angel that God sent. There's so many times in my childhood, which I share in my book, where God would send a random stranger that would either protect me or feed me or help me or something in the middle of the darkness of my childhood. And so here I am again, in this desperation to get away from this person. And this woman pulls up and she's like, "Sweetie, get in the car." And so I hopped in the back seat of her car, and it was such a blessing and such a relief. And so she got me away from him and she drove me home. And I was so thankful that day for that rescue that God had sent. And, rage does incredibly horrible things to people. And so this man used to get so enraged that, I remember waking up with him choking me in the middle of the night, saying he's going to kill me with eyes black as coal. He'd blacked out and didn't even know what he was doing. A demon had taken complete control of him. And, I fought back, and the next day I had told them what had happened, and he didn't remember even doing it. And so there's something scary about being in those types of situations and relationships. And it's like, one, it's not your fault, and it's not your job to make them better. And I remember I used to think in my sad, broken heart that if only I could love them, love those people, then maybe they could change. And the reality is that people never change unless it's their decision. You can't change anyone. You can never change an abusive person and make them not abusive. You can never change a narcissist. You can never change whatever this unhealthy pattern is that this person is doing to you. One, it's not your fault, and two, it's not your responsibility. And three, you cannot change them. Now, prayer is powerful. Prayer has a way to break through all those demonic strongholds and barriers and begin to work in the heart of that person. But if you're in a situation where you're not safe, please leave. Please leave. Please get help. Please do not stay there for any reason. And so this is my story. I'm just this messed up teenager in an abusive relationship. Now I'm pregnant. And I remember thinking about my uncle who had led me to Christ and who was a pastor and who had been in and out of my life all these years. And I remember thinking, he's going to be so disappointed in me. And just the weight of feeling that, again, that rejection from my own family of, yes, my mom's okay with it, but what is everyone else going to say? And, all those years of words of people telling me, don't be like this, don't do this, don't be like this person, don't repeat these patterns, et cetera, et cetera. And we're all came just like crashing in on me. And, in my mind at that time, I thought that my addiction and my battle was just between me and the person. I didn't think that my family knew about it. I was oblivious to the outside world. I was so trapped in my little, globe, my little, what do you call those globes that you shake up and there's like a little city inside of it, those Christmas globes. I'm in my own little world in the middle of reality. I'm here trapped in my own little glass globe. And I don't realize that everyone else around me already knows who I am. They already know what I've been up to, these last 6 years or 7 years of my teenage life, just wasting away and making bad decisions. And so I had a friend at the time, and she was also very similar to me, similar behaviors and lifestyle. And she'd gotten pregnant. And I remember watching her go through getting an abortion. And, even though I always had that belief in God and Jesus and that foundation that it's just something you don't do. And my mom, who could have had an abortion because of the situation that happened to her as a teenager, chose to keep me. Instead of getting rid of me, chose to raise a child who looks like the person that conceived her, and she happened to look at my face every day of my life and still choose to love me. And so I had those thoughts in my mind, like, this is something I can't do. But at the same time, my friend just made it look so easy. She just paid like $300. She was gone for a day or two, and she came back and it was over. And she never had to deal with this loser guy that she got pregnant with again. And she didn't have to carry all this, the burden that seemed like was coming with that. And I remember thinking those thoughts and wrestling with it in my mind that maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I should just take the easy road out and I should just break it off with this guy and start fresh and get out of here. And I began thinking the thoughts of, I'm going to just get an abortion and remove my baby. And God, in his loving mercy, never makes mistakes. He never, ever, ever makes mistakes. And so he began to put a burden on my uncle's heart, my pastor, police officer uncle's heart, to call his niece and check on her. And this guy, bless his heart, it took some diligence to find us, me and my sisters, when we were kids, because we were never home. My mom never had a phone. She didn't have a car most of our childhood. We walked everywhere that we went. And so trying to reach my mother was near impossible. And trying to get a hold of us girls who were off in the 90s running around the streets, you know, people didn't have cell phones back then. It was like rare if you had a cell phone. And so he tracks me down. He finds out where I've been staying, where I am, finds the phone number to the house I'm at, and I get, the phone rings, and it's my uncle. And I'm so excited to hear his voice. I hadn't talked to him in so long. It'd been a few years since I had seen him, and I just missed them so badly. But, you know, part of being in an abusive relationship was just that aspect of control, where I was never free to go and be with my family anymore. And so I was just this prisoner living in this hell. And so it was such a light in my darkness to hear my uncle's voice. And I remember thinking I wasn't going to tell him what was going on. I just gave him the whitewashed tomb version, you know, what it looks good on the outside. I'm going to paint him this beautiful mask and this beautiful picture of my life and the story, and make it all as believable as I can, not knowing that I was the only one that I was actually lying to. I was lying to myself. He already knew what I was up to. And so he's just visiting with me, and for some reason, I suddenly just felt compelled to tell the truth. And I said, kind of with like some reservation in my voice, I'm pregnant. And my uncle's response, I still to this day praise God for that, because his response, it was not disappointment. He did not go, oh, okay. The first thing out of his mouth within seconds after I finished saying, I'm pregnant, was, oh my gosh, praise the Lord. I'm so happy for you. This is the best news. Are you kidding? You're going to have a baby? Praise Jesus. He's like, children are a blessing from the Lord. He's like, they're a blessing. They are a reward. He's like, I am so happy. This is the best thing that's ever going to happen to you in your life. You're going to be a mother. I'm so happy for you. And I remember it took me back, because I was expecting him to be disappointed in me and ashamed, and which would have likely driven me to make that decision that I had been pondering over the weeks before, that maybe I should just end it all. And instead, God sent my uncle, an angel in the darkness, to tell me and give me a blessing and tell me how beautiful and wonderful this gift from God is. And so I began to smile and think, okay, you know, like, he's happy for me. I can do this. And after that phone call, there was a spark in my heart that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I remember just feeling like, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to have this baby, and I'm excited about it. And so God had shifted my feelings from, you know, I need to get away from this, to, it's okay, I can handle this. I could do this. I'm going to love this child with all my heart. And I suddenly began bleeding a ton, and I began miscarrying my child. And I remember freaking out and going to the hospital. And for the first time in several years, Remember that girl who used to pray in her closet when she was little? She hadn't talked to God in a long time because she'd given up on it. And I remember praying and asking God, please don't take my baby. Well, it turns out that my placenta had begun tearing away from my uterus, and like it was almost halfway torn. And the doctor said, if you don't stop what you're doing and stay in bed and bed rest, you're going to lose this baby and start eating healthier. I think part of it was I just wasn't really eating very good, and I was always stressed out and stuff. And so, you know, the day comes for my baby to be born, and I'm so excited, and I can't wait to meet him. And, you know, my grandma and my aunt were there for me for that whole experience. And it was just, I remember holding him and kissing his face and thinking, God, I could never love another person as much as I love this child. Like, I hadn't felt that kind of depth of love before, and I was so glad that I had this baby in my arms, and not only that I would get to love him, but that he would actually get to love me too. It's like, this is my baby. And I remember just promising God that I would never let anyone hurt him. I would never let anybody hurt my child. And so from that day on, I was very, very, very protective. I think I probably held him so much, and he was delayed in learning how to crawl because I would just hold him all the time. And he was my little precious baby. And so I don't know where you're at in your life right now and how this story might be connecting to you as I share. But I just want to encourage you that, you know, God can redeem and fix any mistakes that you've ever made. You know, maybe for you, you did have an abortion, and that's something that you live with, and it hurts you and you struggle with it. Or maybe, you know, you didn't have an abortion, but you went through some other kind of a situation where you're in an abusive relationship and you stayed longer than you should have. Or maybe you're still there and you're trying to gain the courage to leave. You know, whatever it is, I want to encourage you, because not only did God send his only son to take the price for the mistakes we've made on himself. He took our fine on himself so that you and I don't have to carry it anymore, so that you and I we can be forgiven and clean. We have a clear conscience and a clear heart. And yes, we'll have those scars and those memories of things behind, but oh, the joy of the peace of God. Oh, the joy of the freedom and that comes from giving it all to him and letting him take it and forgiving yourself. Choosing to forgive yourself, I think sometimes is one of the hardest things. And so if you gain anything from this video today, I would just want to encourage you that, one, God sees you in your struggle. He loves you right where you are. He doesn't make mistakes. And even though the devil might try to use all these circumstances and all this pain to cause all this chaos, God will still find a way to bring something good out of the middle of it. You know, it's just that picture of flowers and plants, you know, that they're so beautiful in the summertime, but then when the fall comes, they all shrivel up and die. But that shriveling up and that ending process has to happen in order to release the seeds. And those seeds fall into the ground. And then the rain comes and the snow comes and the dark season comes and buries those seeds down below. But then, the spring, it begins to water those seeds. And that's you and me in the presence of God and in the Word of God and surrounding ourselves with good, healthy communities. We begin to water those seeds that came from the death, that came from the brokenness, that came from the bad mistakes and the pain and the hell. Those dead seeds that fell to the ground. God begins to take what the devil meant for evil, turn it into something beautiful and good. And he'll begin to grow and to heal. And the next thing you know, you're this beautiful rose sticking out of the ground, this beautiful flower, this beautiful tree. You know, the mustard, the example of the mustard seed, the tiniest seed of all, yet it grows into the biggest tree. You know, and so God can take all those things and change it around for good. And so don't give up. Just please don't give up. Forgive yourself. Forgive those who have hurt you. Forgiveness does not equal access. Please also remember that. Set up those boundaries that you need to set up. Walk away. Get help. Run away. Let God rescue you. Find community. Get away from this bad situation, but also know that where mistakes have been made, where choices have happened, where things have happened outside of your control, that all of it, God still loves you. You're still His. You're still enough. And He is going to say yes every time you've run to Him and say, God, I need you. Will you help me? God, I need you to rescue me, Jesus. God will meet you in that, and He'll begin to break down the walls to set you free. Thank you so much for listening to this video today, guys. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. Please don't forget to comment down below. I would love to hear how I can be praying for you. If any part of this video ministered to you in any way, please let me know. It encourages me, and it helps me to know how I can support you also in prayer. Reach out to me at my email, Catherine@km-ministries.com, for your prayer requests, and I can't wait to see you again in the next video.